In the previous episodes, I worked on a single code base and I was working on one problem at a time. It turns out that a lot of the value in using artificial intelligence is the ability to delegate tasks and have them happen in the background while you do something else. For this episode, we're going to do a bunch of that and see how much we can accomplish in a very short amount of time by multitasking. So for the first thing I'm going to be working on while I do other stuff is having it create the interactive file format called the Heavy. So the vision I have for the next iteration of Heavy Resume is that you have this Heavy file format. The Heavy file format is intended for data ingestion in different audiences. And it can support plugins and web page display and being able to ask it questions, just a lot of things that you can do when you no longer say, I'm going to be bound to a paper document. So I'm having the AI craft the standard, and then I'm going to have it create a reference implementation of it. And it looks like it finished already. So it's interesting it says only one file changed, because I don't think that's the case. So it looks like it did other stuff. Heavy. So let's go ahead and say, so here's the specification it came up with. It seems okay. So it looks like it decided to use YAML as a way of putting metadata. Interesting. Okay. So part of the value in AI is when you don't sit down and scrutinize everything it makes. Otherwise, you really slow things down. So we're not going to do that. We're going to assume that it did an okay job here, and instead we're going to make it build things that prove it did a good job here, rather than just trying to read it and try to understand if it did. So we're going to have it create a reference. We're going to have it create a reference implementation using TypeScript. Okay, so please create a reference implementation using TypeScript, support both the editor and reader. I should download a file and select a file for display. Let's see what it does. Okay, so now while it's working on that, I'm going to go eat breakfast. All right, so it says it made the reference implementation of a client. I don't see a way to test it yet, so let's go ahead and add it. So we're going to go ahead and have it update some things that are related to the IDE we're using, which is VS Code. So we're going to have it create a run configuration so that I can simply click on a drop down and hit play, and it will start. And then also add a task so that the dependencies for it are installed. So it looks like it ran already. Let me see if, let's see, install dependencies. That seems to run. And then there's a build reference app task. That seems to have ran as well. So let me see if I can run our reference app already. So it says right here, Heavy launch in Chrome. Let's try that out. All right, well, it started and it ran. The editor isn't quite what I was hoping for, because this is a markdown. This is a text editor. And the idea is that it's not a text editor. So then let's see. So this is very raw. So let me give it some very specific things it needs to support. And what I'm sort of envisioning for the workflow is that it will recognize when the format doesn't support something it needs to and make adjustments as needed. Notice there's an issue with the configuration it came up. It looks like it ran this pre-launch task, and this is the actual task, but because it doesn't finish, it never actually gets to like opening it in Chrome. And then this is please use type Chrome instead. So I'm going to have it update this so that it works correctly. I don't think it needs to even be a Chrome configuration. It should just run it and debug. Okay, so now I've given the AI a chunk of work to work on. I'm gonna go ahead and get this started, and then I'm gonna go shower. All right, I just got out of the shower. Let's see what it changed. All right, so I guess first thing is testing whether the launch config is fixed now. Well, seems fixed. So here is our new editor. So it looks like a text block is still using Markdown. So we want to make sure that that uses standard formatting. Let's see, ID link target. Welcome. I feel like IDs should be hidden unless I expand it. So then this is what, an intersection? Let's go add text block. I am another text block. Okay. So I don't see the reader updating. So that's a couple things we could have it fixed now. All right, so now I got a few things for it to work on. I'm going to get ahead and get it started on those. And then I believe there's some laundry to look at. All right, it looks like it finished, so let's check out the results. So this is our new visual editor. Let's try adding a text block and see if that's fixed. Okay, it is. Looks like it's got a little left, sort of a style thing here. Foo bar moo. Okay. And then I forgot a list. Foo bar moo. All right. So we want that to convert. All right, so here's our schema mode. So this component is text. If I give it, say, name, center. This one's not. So add read section. Oh. Okay. So this should be hidden. So it looks like collapsing is this little button. So collapsible should have an inner and exterior section. Looks like this modal context stuff from the editor is showing up in the reader. So my idea for the editor isn't quite what I had in mind. What I want to be able to do is basically have like a ghosted section where you can click plus And if it's part of the template, it would be there and ready to fill in. Let me put my thoughts down for the AI. Okay, so I gave it quite a bit to work on here. So we'll go ahead and get this started, and I'm going to work on something else. All right, so it looks like it did our changes, or many of them. Let's see how it looks. All right, so still says add child on the visual editor. It's not what I wanted. There's the override. Here's the custom ID is changed. New component, text expandable plugin. So that's a little ugly. There's a plus sign. Oh, I see. And then there's a gap here. So now I need to give it some instruction on the aesthetics of this. Just jump. Oh, I see. It jumps to it on the editor. And then I also noticed that this is not working right. Okay, so this time I added the thing about the bug. It's still not doing what it should do. Try to get on the right behavior where you have these different sections. Let's just let it work on that and see what it gets to. And let's check out how much rate limits we have. Still a ton. Okay, so it is worth calling out that I did need to know a little bit of the terminology, or at least it helped. Let's see if things look a little better. So it's still wrong. Let me try refreshing. Yeah, it's still wrong. What is going on here? Editor row, flex center. So we don't want it in editor row. We want it in editor blocks. Let me make sure this isn't a hot reloader issue, because this feels obvious. Yeah, it's still doing it. So I need to be more detailed with the AI. Okay, this looks a little better. Some formatting issues. That's a little... Okay, so a subsection should not be treated differently. Oh, wait. You know, why is there... Okay, so we're missing margin. We're padding. So our list is still not working right. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy this and let the AI see what it's doing. It looks like none of the other like table or table component looks right. Expandable is just kind of a subtext. It should be two components. Of course, there's a margin issue there as well, but we'll worry about that later. Yeah, just a few things. So got another chunk of things for it to work on. Gonna get that started. Alright, so here's the things it added. It did ask for a lot, including like being able to undo and redo, dark mode, and a few other things. So let's see what we got out of it. Okay, so we have our red X's to delete stuff. And then let me hit undo. That is not working. Oh, it's up here. Undo. Stuff's not working. Let me try refreshing the page. Delete that. Undo. Okay, so that doesn't do anything. Undo doesn't do anything. Redo doesn't do anything. So let me add that. Let's see, our plus button's still misaligned. We still see click to add subsection. When I add new sections, they just show up like this. So that's wrong. So besides the bugs I'm seeing, I'm actually going to ask it to see if it can hook up Playwright so that it can actually test this itself rather than having me go through and test it. I'm not sure it'll be able to see all the aesthetic problems, but at the very least it could verify that like something functionally doesn't work. Alright, so it looks like it thinks it fixed a bunch of things, and then it says running test is blocked. It says it can replace deprecated exec command. I'm not sure what that is referring to. Text behavior with a modern editor primitive. What is the modern editor primitive? And then add more specs. Let's get running tests working. Alright, so while I'm going to ask it to see if it can get Playwright working while I check out its changes. Okay, so I guess first off, I add a text component. Does it show up? Okay. Quote. Looks like it does. It needs to like scroll to it. Does this ever work? Okay, so that works. So let's see. Each section needs to have the capability to override stuff. Code block. Okay, it's basic but works. Using expandable. Stub component. So on the expandable, it is not showing one of these two. Okay, so this is probably, okay. This is not showing the stub editor. All right, so it looks like I got tests working, so that's good. All right, so I have stuff for it to fix. So we'll check this out. Let that run while I do something else. All right, well, it thinks it made a bunch of the changes. Let's see if it did. So we now have the separate scrolling, which is good. Let's see, it said it did the table component. Okay. Column 1, column 2, commas, column separated, comma separated. So we could probably improve that UI, but we could just say foo bar moo. And then column 1 on this row is cow something. Oh, we have expandable details, which is reveal component. Click to reveal. So it seems to have gone back to its tendencies. And of course, we only support 2 columns here. Let's try deleting something and then trying the undo. So I'll try the keyboard. State tracker says no pending changes. I wouldn't expect that because I've been doing this. Try redo. Okay, so right, I go. Oh, every keystroke. Ooh, that's hideous. Okay, so there's a few changes to make here. I'm making changes while trying to use it, and because it's editing so frequently, it causes this to keep resetting. Unfortunately, so it makes it difficult to look at it and go, "Oh, why is this default to quote?" For example. All right, now that it's stopped, I can actually look at it and say, "Oh, why is this its own interface? It should just be reusing the same ghost components it's doing over here." So a few issues. Table components still kind of wacky. I try to type into this call and it goes to the top. So fixing that, probably a bit more to do. Expandable details is still sitting here. I have no idea if this is the expand. I'm guessing it's not. It should be another component. All right, so I got my instructions in. I'm going to have this fix it and let it run. And then I'm probably going to call it a day on working on this. All right, so it thinks it fixed it. Let's check it out. So if you change things, and hit undo. Okay, so it looks like it chunks the keystrokes now. And if we make a table, so should go to call 1, call 2, call 3, and these updated. Bar new. Click to reveal details. Something? What is it? Okay, so it's fixated on a certain component. And then we have our container component. So I think that's what I asked. Details container. Yeah. So it got these confused. Instead of container component, it was like that. Let's try our grid. We know plugin shouldn't be implemented. Grid columns. Why does it scroll to the top? So you can do 3 or 2. text left. So these aren't components either. Well, I mean, they kind of are, but why does it have left, right, full? Shouldn't that be part of the text component? Oh, it's not. Okay. All right, so I think what I'll do is I'll give it a final set of instructions, and then I'm not going to look at the page to avoid going down this rabbit hole of keep finding things to fix. So I can call it a day on this project. All right, so it finished in 4 minutes, and that's it. We'll cut it off and call it. All right, so AI was great for helping me multitask. I was able to get chores done around the house and do a lot of things while just simply having the AI work on something in the background. It very quickly got boilerplate and a foundation built, which was awesome. I didn't need to worry about looking things up. It just knew where to go, and it made aesthetic changes simply by asking. So it started out kind of ugly, but then just simply pointing things out one by one, it could do things like add a gradient, which would normally be kind of time consuming to figure out what it should be, and it added it very easily. Okay, so where was AI counterproductive? Nowhere. It saves so much time. It's really dumb, in my opinion, to complain about the fact that it wasn't able to read my mind. I didn't give it very good instructions. It threw something out there, and it was a very good thing to start with and just iterate on. Okay, so now could AI have done all of this on its own? I think right now the answer is no. For starters, you need a vision. So something to say like, I'm solving a problem. Here's kind of how I see it being solved. And you need someone to really guide it. It has a poor sense of user experience. It lives in a different world, primarily a text-based world. So it doesn't really have those intuitions like a human would. Finally, AI just doesn't seem that great at making judgment calls yet. So the best way to use AI is it seems like to create a workflow where you're not letting the AI make decisions, or it's not having to make any major decisions. It does seem like when you ask, for example, to have a UX change, it's not really thinking about it as much as it's copying stuff it's seen before.